I was just not happy with what I was doing. And I saw here a program which was actually giving you a stipend. Landed up at IIM Ahmedabad with no idea of what is research. But it turned out to be a great decision because in the process I discovered my calling. I still remember my comprehensive was fairly tough. I don't think I'm a great communicator. So I had a lot of apprehension I can never teach. Some of the friends told me that you will make a good teacher because you have a lot of patience. But I must say the last 10 years has been the most fulfilling. And I still remember a question by Rajiv Bajaj, who was on our board, that what does IIM Udaipur stand for? He said, look, it's a very crowded space. So I think we asked ourselves that what do we do which is different? Right from beginning, focus on accreditation and global ranking, focusing on a research ecosystem, which would make us unique, and focusing on a core learning and student transformation, and saying placement is not the priority for us. We actually have a customized journey in the sense we have a coach for everybody who will help individual discover who they are. We also should become a role model institution because I think somewhere India needs that. We already have a vision 2030.
Institutes are the islands of excellence in the ocean of mediocrity, and it takes years to build an institute, and IIM Udaipur is one such example. It's been 10 years of its existence, and in these years, IIM Udaipur has become the most sought after institute for research. I won't stop myself calling IIM Udaipur as our own Takshila in today's era. Today I am going to be speaking with Professor Janat Shah, who is the person behind IIM Udaipur and who made IIM Udaipur a research school. Please join me and welcome Professor Janat Shah. Hello, sir. Welcome you on Inkpothub Media.
Thank you, Anita, for having me and those kind words.
So I'm really honored, and we all are very happy to have you on Inkpothub. So, sir, you are an engineer from IIT Bombay, and you did your FPM from IIM Ahmedabad, and then you worked with IIM Bangalore for close to 20 years, and then joined IIM Udaipur as director in 2011. How does it feel, sir? It's like 30 years long journey. How does it feel?
No, it's been a long journey, but a great journey. I mean, each of those steps, I think played a very important role. But I must say the last 10 years has been the most fulfilling because, you rarely get an opportunity to build an institution.
True.
And I've been just lucky to get that opportunity to build an institution. Obviously, every step has played a role, so Ahmedabad played a very important role, when you see the institution so closely, because as a FPM, you get an opportunity to interact with the faculty so closely, understand institution, and you also continue to keep those relationships, right? So that played an important role. Obviously, Bangalore has played a big role because, when I joined in 2011, right, I think that's where KRS Murthy came in and made some huge changes in the way Institute was perceived, and it has done phenomenally well, and very proud to be part of the journey. So all this has played its own role in my own life, and but it does feel wonderful at this point in time, especially in terms of where I'm today. We, as you rightly said, we completed 10 years. So I'm very excited, but I think also recognize that Institute takes a very long time. So we are still work in process, but at least we're hoping that we have a strong foundation.
Absolutely, sir. Under your supervision, guidance, IIM Udaipur has really come a long way. Let me take you through your FPM days. I request you to recall your FPM days because those are the days which makes us who we are today. So tell me which incident or a thing you still vividly remember and that has changed you as an individual and contributed in your
So, so
persona?
actually, it's very interesting how I got into FPM program because
Uh,
uh, I don't think I actually had intention to get into research at all.
uh,
Okay, research or teaching. I was just not happy with what I was doing. I'd spent 5 years with industry and I was not happy. I didn't enjoy it and was trying to just run away from it. And I saw here a program which was actually giving you a stipend. Okay. And I said, it's a good institution, right? So I actually landed up at IIM Ahmedabad with no idea of what is research. It's just that they're giving stipend, good institution.
mm,
So it's interesting to how one makes those decisions in life. But it
mm,
turned out to be a great decision because in the process I discovered my calling. When I look back, it's quite funny in terms of some of the decisions or sort of, for example, for strange reason, I had set up a goal that I want to finish in less than 4 years. Okay. So I was
mm.
one of the only one who finished in 3 or 9 months, getting that qualification. But when I look back, I don't know why, you know, I think it would have been nicer if I had spent a little more time because in the process I would have probably, because today we talk about minimum 5 years. So,
Mm.
I would have honed those skills. So again, it's just funny how we make those decisions. Uh, but I think what was interesting was when you watch those faculty at a close quarters. I
Mm.
think we had outstanding set of faculty.
Mm.
For example, for Jahar Shah, whom I so fondly remember, uh, he continues to guide us at IIM Udaipur even now. I think what I found was all of them were the humility with which they looked at everything, the way they want us to succeed. So a lot of focus on, on one hand, obviously expecting, that spirit of excellence what we do. At
Mm.
the same time, supporting us in whatever we do, right? Every stage, I still
Mm.
remember my comprehensive was fairly tough and I didn't know how well I've done. And I still remember somewhere meeting Rajar Shah, who was one of the member.
Uh,
He said, no, I'm avoiding meeting you till we declare results because I will end up discussing with you. And I don't want to do that. So, I mean,
okay.
we can remember so many things. But also, I think in the process, I ended up making, building friendship with so many people, including PGPs who were there at that point in time. So I think
Absolutely.
obviously with my FPM batchmate, but also with PGP. So I think somewhere it helped me shape in
Mm.
terms of my own, the way I look at students, especially, right? I think
Mm.
this whole idea that, so I think a great institution shape you, your thinking. It has laid a very strong foundation, helped me discover my calling. But even at the end of it, I was not sure whether academics is my right place for me because I actually I've studied in Gujarati medium for my for my schooling.
Uh-huh.
I don't think I'm a great communicator. So I had a lot of apprehension I can never teach. It's just some of the friends told me that you will make a good teacher because you have a lot of patience. It's just that I get probably landed up by accident in academics, but
Uh,
finally I uh, that's my calling, and it's obviously there's so many fond memories of those place, uh, people, place, friends, which is
I think sir,
made what
I think every FPM scholar can relate with what you are just saying because we all sail through almost the same journey, and I am actually looking at for 5 years, my own 5 years. I was doing my PhD, all this thing, whatever you just said, I was having this thing in my mind that okay, I made a lot of friends. I was also friends with the PGP students. I also did this or that. So you actually also your experience is so relatable. So let's come back to IIM Udaipur. So IIM Udaipur has arrived on the global education stage by getting AACSB accreditation in just 8 years of its establishment. And with this achievement, it has joined the elite group of 5% of the world's B school to be accredited by AACSB, which is really, really commendable. And with this, it has consistently counted among the top 5 institutes in India for research and management according to the methodology used by UT Dallas. According to you, what are those 3 idiosyncratic strategies which newer institutes must learn from IIM Udaipur? Because you have set an example, and this is really, all these institutes, I'm sure, are aspiring to be like IIM Udaipur. So what are those 3 strategies which you adopted, sir? If you can share with us.
Yeah, so I think so I'll take a minute first talk about before coming to those three
Sure.
strategies we put in place. I think one is obviously I'd spent 20 years at IIM Bangalore, and there we had gone through its own journey. So a lot of thinking part already had been done in terms of IIM Bangalore. That's one part. Second, we also realized when we came in, we were 13th IIM, and already there were several private schools, XLRI, SPJ, which are doing extremely well. I also had a very good board, and I still remember a question by Rajiv Bajaj, who was on our board. He kept asking that what does IIM Udaipur stand for? He said, look, it's a very crowded space. Ahmedabad and Calcutta started almost 50 years back, right, in 1960. So unless you have some unique way you want to position IIM Udaipur in this crowded place, there's no way you can build a name. So I think a lot of those things really helped. So I think we asked ourselves that what do we do which is different, right? So I think one interesting framework we looked at was a framework by C.K. Prahlad. He has a paper on strategic intent where he talks about this whole issue that, you're a strategy scholar, so he talks about this whole issue that if you are in a crowded space, right, and you're a new entrant, so he talks about the strategy of first thing identifying loose bricks. Okay, so I think what we did was ask those questions. What are the loose bricks we need to focus? So that was one part. Second, there was also work done by Shrikant Datar and others. They looked at 100 years of management education and came out with a book. So we had a insight of that. And also, I think we also discovered that there were schools in neighborhood in Hong Kong, Singapore, who had done phenomenally well in a very short. So say, can we learn from all this kind of thing? So I think another thing, we also looked at certain data in terms of the way institutions were built, excellent institution. And there were some hard facts which came up, which is saying that, if you look at top institutions in the world, top 10 institutions in the world, youngest is 125-year-old institution. Similarly, if you look at, there were only 4 institutions in top 100 which were less than 50 years. Interestingly, all of them were in our neighborhood, Singapore, Hong Kong, Taiwan, all that. So I think we had an opportunity to look at, so first thing we said is, you have to do things from a very long-term perspective. Don't, so we talked about a 20-year horizon. Okay. So I think when we looked at this whole idea of a loose brick, we looked at essentially IIMs and, top institutions like, XLRI, SPJ and all that. So we came up with 3 things. Okay. One was that even top institute like IIM Ahmedabad had not focused on a high quality research. And when we looked at institutions like Singapore, Hong Kong, they had focused on high. So we said, let's look at this as a loose brick, and can we stay focused on high quality research? So from beginning, we said whatever it takes, we will stay focused on only high quality research where numbers are not important.
Okay.
So we will build that whole research ecosystem which will encourage high quality research. Okay, that was one. And that seems to have paid off. Over a period of time, we have built a very strong research ecosystem, and we genuinely feel probably within a country, we have the best research ecosystem. And that's how we're able to, attract young scholars, right? Because they see this is the best floors where they can build their career. Second, we found something interesting, that apart from ABC, nobody else had bothered about global rankings, and which was a strange, understandable, because all of us were operating by and large in domestic market. So whether you look at Lucknow, Indore, Kozhikode, whether you look at XLRISP, nobody had focused on international ranking. And we thought, here is an opportunity. So, and stepping stone for that was ASSB. And also we felt that if we use those as a processes, it'll force us to put processes in place, because they won't give us accreditation unless we have. So it'll also allow us to learn from all that. So very early on, we said, let's try for ASSB accreditation and global ranking. So that was the second piece. And from beginning, we worked on it. So I put in a lot of my personal effort in that, understanding. And third was, we said, how do we make sure our student, some of it was a learning from, Shrikant Datar and his book and other thing, that is there a way we can make student learning as a transformational journey, right? And so conscious effort on being less placement obsessed, which was very unusual, because everybody else was saying that only way you build a reputation is by placement. We are saying something opposite. We actually have gone on several times to incoming students that said, if placement is your priority one, we are a wrong institution. Because we're going to stay focused on, helping you learn, right? So academics would be priority one, right? And we'll also focus a lot on a student activity on campus. We want to transform you. Outcome would happen. We're not saying placement is not important. So some of those three things which we did, which were very different, okay? Right from beginning, focus on accreditation and global ranking, focusing on a research ecosystem, which would make us unique, and focusing on a core learning and student transformation, and saying placement is not the priority for us. So I would urge everybody. I'm not saying people should do what we did. I think people should spend fair amount of thinking about what kind of institution they want to build, and stay focused for 20 years. If you're going to say that, every 2 years I'm going to get new ideas and all that, it doesn't work in academics. So long-term thinking, and I think because we know historically that all institutions are very long-term oriented, I think, so that's would be one advice to everybody. Spend fair amount of thinking about what you want to be.
Okay. So if I ask you now, how do you aspire IIM Udaipur to be? So what are your aspirations, like 20 years from now? How do you see IIM Udaipur?
So, I think what I would like to, as you rightly said, institutions will take a long time.
Yeah.
So it's a good question to ask, what would institution be in 2040, right? I think there are three things again. One would be saying we should make an impact with a scholarly research, because I'm saying I don't believe in an impact without scholarly research. Saying you have to make a strong reputation as a scholarly research school, but finally through that you want to impact society. And I think in India we have this advantage that there are so many interesting problems, right? So I think we have a lot to offer. There is a lot of theory which has been developed, essentially looking at our problems in the West. I'm not saying that you ignore all that. Take it and build something which is, so we have an opportunity to add to that scholarly research, and in the process make an impact on the big problems, whether you talk about inequality, whether you talk about the health, whether you talk about education. I think they're all big problems You know, I mean, Udaipur is in a backward district actually. We are in a tribal neighborhood. If you go just 10 kilometers from Udaipur, you suddenly see it's a very different India. So I think there are huge, unique problems which we have, and it'll be nice we can say that as an institute we have made an impact, but through scholarly research. So you have to make sure whatever contribution you make is through scholarly research. That's one part. Second would be in terms of student transformation. Ideally, I would like to believe that we should look at finally each one as an individual. So even though we may have a batch size of 500 or whatever, today itself we have 325 students in our 2-year MBA.
Okay.
Right now, but is there a way this institution is a platform where they go through this transformation journey, they discover themselves, they discover their North Star, right? Now, to do that, is there a way we actually have a customized journey? In the sense, we have a coach for everybody who will help individual discover who they are, right? And when you talk about that, it can't be mass produced, right? So I'm saying there are a lot of elements which should be there in the institution, but somewhere we have to help individual in navigating his or her journey in a way that it becomes because finally transformation cannot be like a mass production, right? So it has to be customized. So I'm hoping that we create that environment, the transformation happens, and each one's journey is unique. That's what is a second. Third, we also should become a role model institution, because I think somewhere India needs that. And there are several dimensions there. One is, it should make the transformation in some way, it should touch everybody who comes in contact with the institution. I'm not just talking about a faculty. I'm talking about a staff, right? Also, including people who are part of support services. So whether you talk about somebody who's providing part of a, let's say, housekeeping service, security, I think somewhere institutions should be broader. I mean, they have a role to play that it must transform everybody through ideas and students. We are talking about transforming the society. But I think at least those who are part of you, not just faculty, but I'm saying everybody somewhere. So to that extent, if you're able to do those things, then I would say we're a successful institution, we're on all these three dimensions.
Okay.
I think we already have a vision 2030. It doesn't go all the way there, but I think so. I'm hopeful. So I think the key advantage we have today is because of IIM Act, we have a very good board, outstanding board, and that board actually worked on a vision 2030 where everybody is involved. So actually, I'm very happy today that I don't have a role to play today in institution. Because of the vision 2030, we are saying it's a vision 2030 and the culture of the institution together will drive it. So I did play a role probably in initial years, but I think now it's a vision and the culture of a place which will take institution to a next step. And today, actually, I don't have a job, because of this vision 2030 and the culture.
So you are a true transformational leader, because in early years you set those cultures, those values, and I think all everyone, whosoever is there in IIM Udaipur, are following those values and culture.
I wouldn't say that we are there. I think, obviously we have our own challenges, right? Kind of thing. But at least we are both partly collectively have articulated vision as well as this what we stand for as a culture. And because it's done as a collective exercise, right, at least we know the challenges which we have. Hopefully we'll be able to work on.
Absolutely, sir, absolutely. So now coming towards your book, which is on supply chain management. I recently got a very interesting question, sir. What is the difference between operations management and supply chain management? If I can learn from your book.
So okay. So I think let me start with that question: operation supply chain. Honestly, what has happened is some of that terminology which get evolved
Uh,
today. At least the way we look at the word, we say operation management ideally is a subset of supply chain.
okay.
Because supply chain looks at it from saying that finally we have to full, it's matching supply and demand.
Uh,
Okay, so there's a customer who wants some goods and services, and you have a whole chain which puts together. And operations deal with usually. So, I mean, we keep now using this term interchangeably,
interchangeably.
but I would treat operations as a subset of a supply chain
Okay.
management.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. Now,
Uh,
this is actually a book which is just based on an elective which I taught.
uh,
So I was teaching elective uh, at IIM Bangalore, and interestingly, I think that's one of the. I mean, there are courses which you remember where you've done very well.
uh,
Uh, so I still remember that course where we actually I used to write up a case by whatever is the shape on a Sunday. I'll send it to students.
uh,
The idea that next Friday or whenever the class would be, so every session there a submission. It was a very demanding course. It was one of the course which I enjoyed a lot. Interestingly, students gave me the best faculty award for that course. It was interesting. But somewhere I found that there was no book at that point in time, globally also. So I just put together my lectures and cases which I had written. So it's outcome of that. But I was conscious of this issue that I was writing primarily for an Indian audience. So obviously the concepts are global, but with conscious idea that there are Indian contexts of supply chain management, right, which I must bring in.
okay. Here is
Also, when I look at honestly my research, bulk of it is with my doctoral students. So I will give entire credit to them.
Okay.
I have several doctoral students who've done extremely well, and all I would say 80% of my papers are with my doctoral students.
Okay.
So it's nice to see where they are, and yeah. But I'm not, one area which I miss is once I've taken up directorship, I've not done as much as research I would have liked.
That's the side effect. So
Sure.
the next round is going to be a rapid fire. So are you all set for that?
Yeah, so I hope you're not going to ask too difficult questions.
These are just very small, light bites, sir, actually.
Sure.
So the first question to you in this rapid fire is, if you are to choose 3 adjectives for yourself to describe yourself, what would you choose?
That's a difficult question, but so one, I'm a long-term player. Right? Second would be, I think I'm a good listener. So I listen a lot. And third, I would say I care about people around me.
Next question. One piece of advice you would like to give to your 20-year-old self?
I would have just probably, or would have about to graduate from IIT Bombay. I would say just trust yourself. There was a period where I was drifting, and I think probably trusting myself. So I think in general, I would say just trust yourself, trust your instincts, and things will work out.
Okay. An advice you received from your teacher and you still follow?
I think no shortcuts in life. Because I think, this whole idea that anything you do, you have to work for it. There are no shortcuts, right? Probably much more true in an academic life, and put your best, right? So I think this working the spirit of excellence and no shortcuts.
One advice you always give to your FPM scholars? So
I think one thing which I tell even young faculty also, see, recognize you're a part of a global pool, So whenever you look at, just don't look at cohort around you, right? Not even cohort within India. because scholarship is global.
Mm.
So, you should aspire, whatever area you want to work in, 10 or 20 years down the line, you should say that if I'm working in, let's say, sustainable supply chain sustainability, there are 100 global scholars, I should be one of them. So I think that global nature of scholarship is something I keep telling a young doctoral student, that don't get carried away just because you're a part of IIM Udaipur, okay, or within India. I think you need to make sure that you recognize this piece.
Okay. And one question is around potential PhD students. So one trait which you look for, these kind of traits in your young potential PhD students before taking them in the program.
So, that's a tough question, and luckily these days I don't get involved, so it makes it easier. But I would say, two things I would look at. One would be ambition. I think it's important to be ambitious. They're saying that finally I want to make a difference to the world. I think, it's not going to happen to a first research, but, you should have that fire. And second, you should be curious.
Okay.
There's just be curiosity the way you look at a word.
Okay.
I mean, those are the two traits I would look for when I'm looking at.
So it's not just one, these are two traits, ambitious and curious.
I would say, because if you're ambitious but you're not curious, probably I'm not too sure. So you need to be curious about the world around you. So I would say two traits I would look for.
Okay. So now tell me something which is very personal to you in terms of your favorite food.
So I would say, I'm fine with reasonable, okay, but I think I'm lucky with, my wife is a good cook, and I won't be able to name any specific, but in general, I do like home cooked foods at home, yeah.
Okay. Who is your role model, sir?
I'll be honest with you, I don't think I have a one role model. Okay, so there are several people I admire, for example, and I depend a lot on some of them. So, for example, Janat Shah, who's, as I said, I talked about, and I do take his help even now. For example, every faculty we hire is part of a selection process. He's there. There's M.R. Rao, who was so I'm talking about people who I know and I can reach out. I'm not talking about people. So M.R. Rao, who was IIM Bangalore director, then became ISB dean. I think he also helped us in shaping our thinking. But in general, I have a habit of actually, for every thing I decide, actually reach out to at least 10 people. So I listen a lot, and before I make up any decision. But there are two people who I reach out for every major decision.
What is the first thing you do in the morning to start your daily routine?
I mean, these days I've been going for a walk and.
Okay. So one thing which you learned from Corona times?
I think that whole idea of both, which is saying, one is saying that value people around you, right? That's something you realize how important it is, taking care of health, and saying that simultaneously you can still work on your long-term goals. So it's not that you need to say, okay, that just 2 years are. So, for example, two things I remember. First thing, we made a promise to our students that we will make sure your quality of education, overall experience should be comparable. I don't want anybody to say you're a COVID batch. Similarly, our Vision 2030, we continue to work on it. So I think it's important that don't allow this to, come in the way, but simultaneously you realize much more value of your people around you, and ensuring that you have to take care of everybody. I mean, students and all that safety is important. So I think that's what I would say.
Okay. I am really so honored and so thankful to you for sharing this time. And so you are really a thought leader, sir. You are really a transformational leader. And I wish someday I meet you in person as well.
You're doing a great job. Both ideas you're working on, this disability you're talking about. I think we need to make sure that we help everybody to aspire, you know, things in life, and people do need support. That. So and this whole idea of supporting doctor students, it's a very noble, because it's a lonely journey, right?
It's a lonely journey.
And yeah, so
That's how we build on
helping.
Inkpothub actually. So we always say that research is a lonely journey and we need to pull each other and achieve our goals and our long-term goals. I am really so honored and so thankful to you for sharing this time, and it's great to see you all here. Thank you for watching our work. If you have not subscribed to Inkpothub Media, then please hit the bell icon and subscribe to our channel and support research celebrations in India.